I am going to Colombia.
I was feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, and I knew there was only one thing that could fix it: a flight. And I know that you see all of these travel content creators hosting group trips, and you probably wonder, is it worth it? Is it a scam? One of my favorite creators was hosting a trip right when I needed it most, so I took the leap and decided to join a bunch of random girls I have never met before in Medellin, Colombia. But that really was only the start, because you know me, I can't just go somewhere for 5 days, so I had to extend my trip and also spend a little bit of time alone in Bogotá. And while 10 days only allows you to glimpse what all Colombia has to offer, I'm excited to share what I learned, ate, and experienced while spending a few days here. Let me know if there's anything specific that you want to know or see, and I hope you decide to stick around.
Ignore the mess. This is 3 weeks worth of laundry that I finally did all at one time. That way I could have all of my clothes clean, so I knew exactly what I had available so I could pack it. And someone heard me talking and wants to say hello. Bring me Lammy. She knows I'm leaving. That's why she brought me Lammy. So now we're trying to pack. We have 5 days in Medellin, 5 days in Bogotá. I know we have one nice dinner in Medellin and probably a nice dinner in Bogotá, just because it's supposed to be one of the culinary capitals of the world. And then we're also supposed to be going out in Medellin, and I am not a going out girly. I just have no going out clothes, so I have no idea what to pack. And then also, of course, people just dress differently. So it's like, what do I even pack? So we're gonna try to take all of this and make it make sense.
Our flight is looking a little delayed, which is actually a good thing for once, because my friend Katie, who is meeting me in Medellin, who I met for the first time in Austin a week ago, she flew from Dallas, and her flight from Dallas got delayed. So we were like hoping, fingers crossed, thoughts and prayers that she makes it here to Miami before this flight to Medellin leaves, because otherwise she might not even make it today. It looks like we're getting ready to start boarding. Hoping for the best. We'll update you in Colombia. Getting to Medellin took 2 flights, an overpriced empanada at the Miami airport, and a middle seat between 2 guys who refused to share the armrest. But I still get weirdly excited anytime they let you off on the tarmac. Something about stepping straight onto the runway makes it feel like you've really arrived. But the excitement was quickly gone after standing for 2 full hours, sweating and shuffling through customs like a herd of cattle. And then the long ride into the city allowed me to meet the first 2 girls in our group. There will be 10 of us total, and they were instantly warm and easy to talk to. From there, we piled into a van, drove into the city, and that is when it really sank in. Medellin is lush and greened and framed by these dramatic mountains. Even through the exhaustion of being up since 3 a.m., I could already tell it was going to be a good trip. Well, now it's time for some snacks and some drinks, and then we'll have our official welcome dinner at around 8 o'clock. So all that to say, I'm freaking tired. And also, to close the loop on a story, poor Katie, who I mentioned while we were in the Miami airport, she did not make it on our flight. Truly, I think that her flight, they opened the door as soon as she touched Miami airport, our flight closed, the doors gone. So she will not be joining us till after like 10 o'clock tonight, most likely, which really sucks. Plane to club ready. Just kidding, we're not going to the club. I'm going to dinner, then I'm going to bed. 1 beer, maybe 2. Unless, no. Our first night kicked off with rooftop cocktails and dinner in Provenza, basically the trendy, neon-lit heart of Medellin. The streets were packed, the air was warm, and every single bar and restaurant was blasting the new Bad Bunny album like it was the city's unofficial soundtrack. The views from our restaurant were absolutely beautiful, and the shared plates were the perfect way to start the night. It was also immediately clear I was in with a group of girls who understood that the phone eats first. Respect. Being somewhere new and different with different people, it was such a breath of fresh air. Our first full day in Colombia was jam-packed. We hit the road for one of the most popular day trips from Medellin, Guatape. It's about 2 hours outside of the city and absolutely worth the drive. It needs to go on your must-do list. On the way, we made a stop for breakfast where we had arepas de choclo, which are kind of like a sweet corn pancake. They're golden and slightly crispy on the edges, and this one had cheese on top, but sometimes it goes inside too. And I finally got my first cup of coffee in Colombia. A classic, rich, bold, stovetop coffee. Exactly what we needed to get through this long day of ours. Guatape is known as the most colorful town in all of Colombia. Every house is painted in bold pastels and detailed with something called a zócalo, which is a required ornate panel that show everything from family trades to local animals. It's home to about 8,000 people and named after the indigenous chief Guatape. The whole town feels like a painting that has come to life. It's definitely one of those spots that can feel a little bit touristy, but being that there's only 8,000 people who live there, that is what their economy heavily relies on. And just because something is touristy does not mean that it is bad. I think that everyone should visit Guatape if you're in the Medellin area. But here comes the main attraction of Guatape, La Piedra de Piñol, a 10 million ton granite monolith that towers over the landscape. It's over 200 meters tall and has a winding staircase of 740 steps built into a crack down one side. According to local legend, it was once considered sacred by indigenous groups, and today is one of the most iconic viewpoints in the country. I also heard that the guy who owns it might have bought it for like $5.
I'm gonna do it in 15 minutes. 15-minute gang. 200 steps. Already wishing I did more Stairmaster at home. We're making great pace, except now there's traffic.
My calves were screaming, my lungs were on fire, but the view from the top made it all worth it. Looking out over the water at those tiny green islands, it felt like time finally got to slow down. After weeks of nonstop movement, work, deadlines, to-do list, I realized I hadn't really paused in a while. So we climbed back down, hungrier, sweatier, and a little more alive, and headed to lunch. For lunch, we had our first traditional Colombian meal of chicharrón, plantains, frijoles, and some fries, accompanied by a juice. This might have been guava, I can't really remember now. It was pretty good, but I would have loved some hot sauce. And to finish up our day in Guatape, we hopped on a boat to head to a private island on the reservoir.
Hoy voy a salir a disfrutar como si fuera el último día. En 5 paso por ti. No te pongas taco, ponte cómoda que nos vamos a divertir. El cielo está estrellado, tú brillando a mi lado. Mami, no se vale estar down. La vida es una, estamos los dos bailando bajo la luna. ¿Pa' qué esperar si ya tenemos la fortuna?
I decided to take out the paddleboard, and you could see the beautiful view of La Piedra in the background. And we just got to bask in the feeling of being like little kids and playing mermaids in the lake together. And we ended our afternoon with the perfect rainbow across the lake as we headed home.
La vida siempre el sabor lo pones tú. Un poco de azúcar a los Celia Cruz. Estamos en lo oscuro, pero se ve tu luz. Súbele la música y no le bajes al mood.
After a day of fun and exploration, it was time to shift gears and get a better understanding of the city beyond the rooftops and restaurants. Medellin is vibrant, green, and full of energy, but not long ago, it was known for something very different. In the 1980s and 90s, it was considered the most dangerous city in the world. Cartel violence, daily bombings, kidnappings, and military raids shaped everyday life. Our day began somberly at Memorial Park, which was built on the former site of Pablo Escobar's Monaco building. Today, the site looks nothing like it once was. Instead of a monument to power, it's now a space for mourning and reflection, honoring the more than 46,000 victims of narco violence between 1983 and 1994. The Black Monument is filled with 46,000 holes, each representing a life lost. Visitors are invited to place a flower in remembrance, and on the back of the wall, there's a timeline of over 200 bombings, assassinations, and attacks, acts of violence that shaped an entire generation. At the center of it all is a message that we must reconstruct our memories so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. This morning we're walking around downtown Medellin and then heading to Comuna 13, which is one of the most popular tourist destinations here in the city. Once one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the world, Comuna 13 is now a living symbol of resilience. In 2002, a military raid known as Operation Orion left dozens dead and hundreds displaced. And some families are still searching for the loved ones who went missing during this operation. And yet, the community refuses to let violence be the final word. Much of that change was led by the women, mothers, teachers, and activists who turned their homes into safe spaces, demanded investment into their neighborhoods, and created programs to support kids growing up in the aftermath of a war. Today, Medellin is safer than it has been in decades. The city has invested in constant surveillance with cameras placed across former high-risk areas to help protect public spaces. And now, when you walk through Comuna 13, you're surrounded by murals, music, and storytelling. It's not just a tourist attraction, it's an act of memory built by a community that chose to turn pain into progress. This place isn't trying to forget, it's choosing what to remember and how to move forward. Walking through Comuna 13, you can't help but feel a mix of heaviness and hope. It's vibrant and alive in every direction. But even with the music and the movement, you can feel what's underneath. The walls don't just look beautiful, they tell stories about grief, about resistance, about community. What moved me most wasn't just how far the neighborhood has come, it's how it got there. Through people, especially women, who decided that the next generation deserved something better. And just as you're taking it all in, someone cranks up the stereo and you're suddenly surrounded by breakdancers or freestyle rappers, and you're reminded that you're in a whole different country just having a good time. And you allow yourself to be surrounded by the joy that the Colombian people bring to their everyday lives.
From the United States, I wish that you have a good day, every night and every day, you know what I'm saying, despertar que lo he visto, encuentro San Francisco, soy el improvisador, ahí se ven que a todos los que enamoran cuando dice hola amor, hola model, de model, de model, de model, de model, de model, the United States, the United States, Canada, 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 Canada.
And nothing works up an appetite like catching a vibe. I can't believe I just said that. But there's so many little shops and street vendors here in Comuna 13. I would highly recommend you take the time to get a popsicle like this. They're made from real fruit and kind of like a salt water. And there were very few must-do items on my list for this trip to Colombia since it was so spontaneous. But at the top of the list, eat an arepa. Even just thinking about this, the Colombians know what they're doing when it comes to bread, corn, and cheese. It also rains quite often in Medellin, almost every day, so it took a second to find a little bit of shelter where I could actually eat this and not be rained on. Because the area I was in, most of the coverage was for the bars that were there.
It is raining, but we're gonna try this. It's like a sweet sauce. And there's a lot of cheese.
After the dancing, the music, and a quick stop for mangosteen and arepas, we wandered out of Comuna 13 with full hearts and slightly sunburned shoulders. We weren't quite ready to head back, so we did what any curious tourist should do. We hopped on some of Medellin's public transportation, including the metro system, and took a ride on the cable cars. And we did this with no destination in mind, and I'm so glad that this was included in our itinerary. I'm someone who genuinely loves public transportation, and I was low-key geeking out a little bit. But even if you're not a transportation nerd, the views and being able to see so much of a city so quickly, and seeing how people interact on public transit is just such an amazing way to actually immerse yourself into how people live their lives somewhere else. I think this is the most excited I've been all trip because we are taking the cable car pan this way. What? We can't even get a bus route in Texas and they have freaking cable cars. Can you, like, look at that? Can you believe it? Let's go. Oh, it doesn't stop. You just get in. Like, this is my drone footage. It's the dirty window. Tonight. What ants are you gonna eat tonight?
Just one. One juicy ant. To be determined. Just a nibble.
How many ants are you gonna eat tonight?
Half of one.
9! Oh my goodness.
3.
These are one of Colombia's most iconic and surprising snacks, hormigas culonas, or big ass ants. These are giant leafcutter ants that have been eaten for centuries by the Guatape people, an indigenous group from the Santander region. They're traditionally harvested during the rainy season, then toasted, salted, and eaten as a seasonal delicacy. In recent years, they've made their way into high-end culinary circles, praised for their nutty flavor, sustainability, and high protein content. We gotta make sure we're getting our gains no matter where we are. This is not my first time eating bugs, so really it was no biggie. They taste like smoky popcorn, and they definitely get stuck in your teeth quite a bit.
This one tasted different.
Got a bad ant.
No, the first one was better. Oh, this is salty. It like kicks in after. Delicious.
I think one is
After pre-gaming on ants, we were ready for a night out in Provenza, which is right by where we were staying, and Medellin's go-to neighborhood for rooftop bars, street music, and dancing pretty much until you forget what time it is. Going out as a woman in a foreign country always comes with a little bit of caution, but in a group I felt really safe, and that was such a huge benefit to going on this group trip rather than traveling solo, because if I was alone, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to go out. But it was so much fun, and we followed the golden rule here: no dar papaya, which basically means don't make yourself an easy target. And of course, no evening out is complete without a little bit of aguardiente, which is Colombia's signature anise flavored liquor. I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan. The licorice flavor just really is not for me, but we gave it a shot and we hit the dance floor anyway. The next day, I was only a little hungover, but it was our last day in Medellin, so we had to make it count. It was the perfect day to be packed full of coffee from our delicious brunch as well as the coffee tasting we're gonna do later this afternoon. Our brunch was at this cozy local spot with really great food, and the restaurant even gave us a bottle of champagne, which was just so sweet. Again, with the group trip, Mackenzie, who planned all of this, just did a really amazing job at picking places that were perfect for a girls' weekend in Medellin. And then we did my favorite thing to do while traveling, which is just sort of wandering the streets and seeing what happens.
Bienvenidos a Medellín. Vengan pronto.
Bueno.
Since this was the last day for most of the girls here, buying souvenirs was at the top of the to-do list.
Gracias. A ti.
Look at my little ring that I got. So cute.
We are now on our way to do a coffee tasting. We're gonna cup a few different Colombian coffees and learn a little bit more about the process.
The flavor of bad coffee is like really bad, really bad. And I understand why people don't like it.
So if this is your first video of mine, you might not know it, but I'm actually quite coffee obsessed, which also thank you for watching this far into this video. But I'm known around Austin as a girl who's trying and ranking every coffee shop in Austin. I also worked in coffee for a few years and worked with a lot of our local coffee shops. All that to say, coffee is one of the reasons I was most excited to visit Colombia. And today we spent the afternoon trying a variety of different coffees with different levels of quality, process, and origin, really to introduce folks into how to tell the difference between not so great and really good coffee. And while I've done a lot of tastings, this was actually my first ever cupping. We started by smelling the whole beans, then dried grounds, then we added water and broke the crust to release the aroma.
The more times we do this, the better. Because we will clean the cups, all grounds will sink, and we will get a really clean surface, okay?
Breaking the cups. And finally, we slurped each cup to taste. Yes, slurped loudly on purpose. This helps to aerate the coffee and spread it across your palate so you can better pick up the flavor notes. Kind of like tasting wine, which by the way, coffee is even more complex than wine. Coffee has over 800 identifiable flavor and aroma compounds compared to only 200 in wine. Wild, right? So it makes you think, why don't we treat fancy coffee the same way we treat fancy wines?
Okay, I like 4.
And even though I'm no expert, I was proud that I was able to differentiate between the good and the bad coffees. It definitely helped to validate a little bit of what I'm doing back in Austin. And I'll talk about this more when we get to Bogotá, but one thing that really sticks out to me in Colombia is how the conversation around Colombian coffee has changed. Colombia is reclaiming coffee into its own culture. For decades, the best beans were exported and locals were left with the lowest quality product, oftentimes importing the lowest quality product from Brazil, so they weren't even drinking their own Colombian coffee. Now we are starting to see a new pride in drinking good coffee here in Colombia, as well as celebrating the story behind each and every cup. If you want to really understand a place, don't just go to the highest rated restaurant or the one with the most reviews on TikTok. Eat what people actually eat. The stuff they grab on the street, the things their mothers make, what they eat at the holidays. In Colombia, one of those things is the buñuelo, a fried ball made of cassava flour and salty cheese, usually queso costeño or queso fresco. If you're anything like me, when you have a bite of sweet and a little bite of salty and then you need more sweet, this is perfect because it has both in one. To put it in American terms, combine a donut with a mozzarella stick. And they're really often eaten during Christmas time or with a nice strong cup of coffee. I chowed down on 2 of these things, and let me tell you, it breaks my heart that I probably will not have another one of these for years to come. I can't believe this is the end of our time here in Medellin. The views were truly so good. Of course, we had to spend a solid 30 minutes taking pictures before anyone looked at their menus. No regrets. And the cocktail menu here was outrageous in the best way possible.
Cheers. for the light.
Oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
We spent our dinner reflecting over our favorite sights and experiences over the previous 5 days. The energy was mellow and a little tired because we had done so much. That was until we were told that we needed to walk in order to get our Uber. And when we walk up this hill, a chiva bus is waiting for us. Basically, the party bus of Colombia.
No way. Victor, you actually did this?
Baila, baila al ritmo colombiano, el corazón late fuerte, no hay un verano lejano. Ella es el fuego, el ritmo y la alegría. En esta pista de baile brilla su melodía.
And back at the hotel, we truly wrapped up our trip. We gave hugs, took quick selfies, and made promises to stay in touch, some of which we'll keep and some of which we won't. It's wild how fast some strangers can become something more. That's one of my favorite things about travel. You're all put into this pressure cooker of experience that lowers everyone's guard and makes room for connection in a way that is just so refreshing. And just like that, the group chapter of my trip comes to a close and my solo adventure is about to begin. Tomorrow, I hop a flight by myself to Bogotá, the nation's capital. I can't lie, my life up until this point had been so busy. I had zero planned. Literally, when I go back into the hotel room after these hugs, I am planning the next 4 days of my trip. All I know is we're gonna get some good coffee, good food, and take a little time to slow down in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So if you've ever wondered what it's like to travel solo in Colombia, or you just want to see what I get myself into, I hope you decide to stick around.
No dejes de bailar.